podcast, man. Just introduce yourself, tell us your name, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I'm
Hmm.
excited to be on with you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always exciting to, come on and talk about things that you're passionate about, and I'm definitely passionate about what you're doing and just manhood in general. I'll start. My name is Justin. From the Midwest. Most all my life, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois. So I've been up here the whole time. It's cold. Seems like it's always cold this time of year, but you get used to it. But um, I've been married for 15 years now. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary. We have 4 kids. I am a pastor of a small town rural church. That's always, I mean, fun. It's,
Yeah.
we've lived in cities, we've lived in small towns. So, everywhere's different, but I've enjoyed that. I think I'm going on my 6th year here. Did youth ministry before that
That's awesome.
for, man, since high school, probably.
Wow.
I was involved in that. So, yeah. So I've been doing that for a long time. And, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy all of it, but it's, God leads us in a lot of different directions, and
Yes, he
uh,
does. Yeah.
I part of me thought, I never really thought I'd be doing necessarily this when I was
Yeah.
younger, which I don't think any young person really does. But
Nope.
um, this is the path that God has taken me on, and you know, uh, with the podcast I'm a part of, the Be a Man podcast, it was, it kind of rooted out of just an Instagram account. I just started just talking about some things that I was passionate about, some concerns I had with just the lack of men stepping up in society, and just
Hmm.
just some things I wanted to leave and teach my son as well, and now 2 sons. But it's just I'm hoping my mission, my goal is to encourage men to be better men, and I'm just
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
Hmm. And that's a really really good mission. And I look at because for people listening, I'll catch your episodes when I can, and they're all like so unique. Like with the interviews you have,
Yeah,
um, like one thing I love is that like each person is so different. Like with the career paths, like didn't you just have was it a cartoonist or an animator
yeah, yeah.
on? Yeah. And like just like the different like professions. Like I wouldn't think of somebody like that. Like to that's just like a very it's so cool. There's so many different people that you've had on.
Yeah.
Like how many episodes are you in now? Like, do you know?
I think, well, I have a bunch recorded, but
Right.
I think I'm over 50, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I started in August. So at first I was just, I didn't really have I'm a planner, but I didn't have like a full plan because I didn't know if it would go anywhere.
Right.
But
Yeah.
now I'm trying to do 2 a week, and one an interview and one just something I say. But,
Yeah.
and the cool thing, the cartoonist guy I had on, I mean, most people don't know it, but I mean, he's won national awards. He's won,
That's
and he didn't
awesome.
talk about any of that stuff. Like, and that
Yeah.
was the cool part. Like, I grew up reading his comics in the newspaper because I grew up near Indianapolis, and
Mhm.
I grew up reading his comics and all that kind of stuff. And it was always funny. And when you're a kid, you don't fully understand it because they're usually political kind of humor. But
Right.
as you get older, you start, okay, that's pretty funny. But and he didn't talk about any of that stuff, and that's how a guy, A, he's genuine, but
Mhm.
B, he's about more than just his profession. Like there has to
Right.
be something behind what he's doing, and you could tell that Jesus is really at the root of why he does what he does.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He really didn't. Cause I did catch some of that one. I mean, yeah. I mean, he just really jumped into how Jesus has impacted him, and it was a really good conversation. And he, yeah, like you're right. I mean, he didn't. I mean, if you hadn't told me that, I would not have known any of that. I mean,
Yeah,
and that also just shows how how humble he is too. Just he doesn't need that to some people they take that stuff and they build a personality off of it,
definitely.
and he doesn't need it just shows that he doesn't need that to have his personality, which that's awesome. But like I was wanting to, I know that obviously your main target is men, but also wanted to get, like, and encouraging them, but also wanted to get your input on just our youth, because that's a big demographic that's being targeted, as like today,
Yeah.
um, like, it's crazy just some of the stuff that I've seen change over the years, just in schools and everywhere else. It's like they're really trying to shove a bunch of stuff down our throat,
Yeah.
and some of it, is really scary. Like, it's just like, I don't want any part of that, you know. But some are so accepting, of like all of this. And one thing, and I was wanting to kind of dive into with you is, why do you think that like youth today, they just like are worshiping celebrities and not God? Like, they just is it easier? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I'm not like, I've worked with youth, just like a backstory. I've worked with
Yeah,
youth for a long time, teens for a long time, like since I was in high school. So, um, so I've seen quite a bit happen, and I mean, I don't feel that old. I'm 37, but I
yeah,
don't feel that old until I like go out and play sports and stuff, and then with a bunch of teams, and then
yeah,
like the next day I'm hurting a little bit, and that didn't used to happen.
right.
But so that's how you know you're getting old, is when you hurt the next day. But um, you know, I looking back, I started seeing it when I was in school,
Mm-hmm.
and but it wasn't as hammered down your
Prominent.
throat,
Yeah.
if you will. Like I started seeing, with even in science class, like the whole concept of evolution. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not, like, if you question it, then you must be crazy. Like, that started happening when I was in school. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as like now, it's just assume that that's the right thing, and no one really
Right.
even asks the question anymore. But like then you started seeing this transformation in, like, that's just ancient old stuff. We're more civilized, we're more, like, we're smarter today, so we don't need to dive into any of that because we know better now. We got the science, we've got the facts, the data, you name it, we've got it. Even though when you look into the data, you look into the facts, you look into the science, there's a lot of questions there. Like, there's some very clear inconsistencies that, if you really start pushing back, they don't have an answer. Like, they
Yeah.
they really don't. And I think it's just been a process of many years, and it starts at the college level. You know, people are going to very, very liberal universities, and they
Mm-hmm.
are not, unless, I mean, you've got to be super grounded in your faith to not get swayed in college. I mean, it
Oh
really
yeah.
is. And even some Christian colleges, I would say, are like that. So I mean, you've got to be super grounded in your faith, what you really believe. And I think you really have to invest in good friends, surrounding yourself with the right people, and truthfully get involved in a local church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need a good local church that will stand beside you and help you through that journey. Or, man, I I've seen way too many young people, like, just get caught up in it all and walk away from their faith.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It really is.
It is. Yeah. And just thankfully, all the stuff that you hit, like having a good church and friends and everything, I have that, and I'm thankful that the Lord's given me that to, to continue this journey that I started, back in April.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy to see how, like, I guess in just a short period things have just changed, and it's like how much is being changed in the youth, and the people just kids are just walking away, and like I don't know if it's I mean partly, and I don't, it might have been a stat or somewhere I saw, but it it said something like that since they took prayer out of school in the 60s, and just God in general out of school in the 60s, the test scores dropped, and that's something I can't believe that
Yeah.
that it happened. So it's stuff like that, that there's a direct effect. And also just, you know I mean, because I look around at my school, and there's, people, I mean, and not to like dog the school because, but because it's everywhere, not just mine.
Yeah.
But, they have foul mouths, things like that. And, you see videos floating around of inappropriate things, you know, and I mean, that could have been, that still could have been sort of a thing, obviously, back then, but it wasn't as prominent. Now it's just commonplace in schools, you know, in
Yeah.
just about every school you go to. And like you said, even the Christian places, you know, some of them are worse than the public schools at times, from what I've
Yeah.
heard, because I don't go to one, but I've heard that some of them can be even worse, and it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Um,
It definitely is.
yeah, you know, and I mean it is upsetting, definitely, because like because I had talked to some of the kids there, that go to some of those places like that, and just to hear what they're hearing, and they're letting it affect them, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and I try to help them, but there's not much I can do. It's got a graft on them too much, and
Yeah.
I try to
And
give them the word, but it's got them.
yeah. And truthfully, I mean, it goes back to, parents also letting some of these things happen, not
Yeah.
being fully aware. I mean, it goes back even further when I had a guy on recently who was talking about the Industrial Revolution is really when he pinpoints a lot of the changes that happened back in like the 20s, 30s,
Mhm.
because uh, families were more separated. Like before that, you had a lot of kids, they were working with their parents. I mean, they were going with them, they were working the farm, they were doing all these things. So there was a much more fatherly influence and motherly influence for that matter. But now
Mhm.
it's like, and people have to do what they have to do. It's not like I'm coming down or judging or anything,
Right.
but
Yeah.
dad's going this way, mom's going this way, kids are going to school, and there's not a lot of teaching home discipleship happening. And I mean, you have to be super intentional about it now, or
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I know that you brought up like a lot of times the parents won't like notice or for whatever, but and that's true, because just even in certain things that I've had to look at, I have to look at each assignment that I get. Like I look, in certain classes, it's just about all of them now, but I look at each of them and I'm like, I just make sure that it's not, because I somewhat do know what to look out for when it
Yeah.
comes to just certain things we're trying to push. And that actually did happen one time in a certain class, and we got it handled, and it was fixed. But I mean, there's I just think about all the instances where it was been put in, even, and this was stuff that like because we knew somebody at the Board of Education, they didn't even put it in there, like they wasn't their doing, it was somebody else, the teachers, you know
Hmm.
and so it's getting right up under the higher ups. They don't even know what's happening. And
Yeah.
a lot of kids, they don't know what to look out for.
Yeah.
And so
Or
they
do
just
they care? I mean, for that matter.
exactly that's another point. They don't care, or they don't know what to look out for, so they just think it's normal and just go with it. I mean, and it is sad to see, but I mean, if I just wish there was more like awareness to that stuff in schools, but it's
Yeah.
hard to catch.
And I think you're starting to see some pushback, but
Hmm.
honestly, it's going to take, I mean, two things: parents standing up more,
Yeah.
and then like getting better board members, school board members,
Hmm.
better, staff, better accountability in that staff. But then also, you have to have a push to actually teach again and
Yeah.
for kids to actually learn again. Because, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, most school, it's geared towards one type of student.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've got four kids. They are all different. Several
Mhm.
learn very different ways. I mean,
Right.
one kid, very, everything's black and white, all that kind of stuff. Another one, he's the kid that you don't think heard a single thing you said, but then can repeat it all back to you. It
Right.
drives me crazy, but
I
he's
bet.
funny, but he's just, I mean, he's like that. And he would not do well. We homeschool, so it's a little different, but
Yeah.
like he would not do well in a traditional school setting
Right.
because, and I mean, he's very energetic, and we could go down that route too, but
Yeah.
the over the um, over, what's the word?
Um,
Medicine,
yeah,
you know, like I just, you're starting to see some serious side effects to all that right now.
yeah. And like when you bring up homeschooling, that makes me really think of just like my church. Because when I came into all that, and because this is honestly, it's just like I said, it's just not coming up on a year in April, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of it was new, for me, and um, I came into this church family and just, really realized like, because I didn't realize how many kids, were getting homeschooled nowadays,
Yeah.
but that, that really put it into perspective just because half of my Sunday school group is homeschooled, and and I know, and I get it,
Yeah.
like I 1,000% get it because we tell them stories about stuff that's happened at our schools, and they're just like, yep, that's why you're homeschooled, because a lot of their kids are in their classes, if it's the Sunday school teacher,
Sure.
um, and it's like, yep, that's why you're homeschooled, and it's it was just so interesting to me just to, because there's I don't know, there's a lot of them that are homeschooled, and it just really, it kind of shocked me, to be honest, and
Yeah.
but
You've
go
seen
ahead.
a you've seen a big push really
Hmm.
since 2020 happened,
Yeah.
because I mean, this whole learning online stuff, it's
Mm-mm.
not the same. I mean,
It
I feel
doesn't
very
work.
bad for kids because, I mean, they're just not learning the same way or how to learn as
Yeah.
easily. And there's other opportunities out there. And there's different reasons why we homeschooled. I never thought in a million years we would. I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully. But we were kind of put in a position where we had to when our oldest started. I mean, she's a middle schooler now. So,
Yeah.
but like, we're as a pastor, I work Sundays.
Hmm.
So if we're gonna do anything, it's really Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And if they were in public school, that's Saturday, and that's it. And that's not much of an opportunity to go see family or go, because closest family is 2 hours away.
Hmm.
So if we're gonna go see somebody, we're gonna take maybe Thursday night and just head out and be back for Sunday, and it just, things like that work out for us. Or
Yeah.
there's other opportunities out there for young people to
Hmm.
learn to work, to learn how to run a business, all that kind of stuff. And it
Oh
just,
yeah.
there's so much out there that is open to young people that it works out for us
Yeah.
to do it this way.
And I didn't know this, but because I was talking to because how my class is, it's the guys and the girls are joined because of they're a husband and wife duo, from a Sunday school class.
Sure.
And I was talking to the wife about just life and stuff like that, and she said that, yeah, my kids are going to be able to, so since even though they're homeschooled, they can dual enroll at the college down here that we have, and I thought that was so cool. So even kids
Hmm.
that are homeschooled, they can dual enroll and start taking college classes, which I had no idea that was an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that and my parents, at least my mom, she even brought up the thing is like, if there's something that you see that I mean, I think she would do it if she could, but it'd be rough. Um she said, if there's something that you see that just, and it's like just really like crosses the line, tell me, and we might have to do something. If we ever had to do something different, I think she would. But like even my friends, parents have said that, like they would pull us out in a heartbeat if there was something really strange, that just because we knew that the school was crossing the line. Which
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to do, I know, but I know they would do it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just I just pray that the youth comes back to Christ really, because with the way that things are going. I mean, because my church, when I look at it, I say, at least in my my mind, because Wednesday is dominated by the youth. We have a lot of
Hmm.
youth that come, which I know honestly, because I've been talking to some people, they say that their churches um don't, like that they don't have a very big youth group. It's not as
Hmm.
prominent. And I just find that so unique about mine is that like all the everybody that's parked there is pretty much for the youth stuff on
Sure.
Wednesday night, and I thought that was
Awesome.
so cool. Yeah, and just to, we always worship every Wednesday, when we do it, and it's just so cool to have a room full of it's different ages, from, gosh, I mean, I think they're all maybe middle school to high school. It's just so cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. One day I wish they would like, maybe I don't know if they would, but like, I don't know, video it or something, just so they could show that, because a lot of people, I think, they are starting to lose hope on like the youth, having like big groups like that, you
Yeah.
know. So if they could just maybe video it one time and show, hey, like it can happen. Just look, we're
Yeah.
doing it, so it can happen other places,
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
a
it's
really good
just,
idea.
yeah, and because one thing I've been trying to, at least with this podcast, is tell like, I mean, and it might have been them. I don't know. It could have been an idea that I just popped in my head, but I feel that this happens that some, adults, and that's not all of them, of course not, but some adults, they do kind of look down on the youth today, and I understand why,
Hmm.
in some regard, but with this podcast, that was one thing I wanted to show, adults and just help youth, is that, we have a voice, and we're not all gonna like, you know, push some weird stuff on you. We're just gonna speak our mind and speak our voice, and we have a voice, and we want it to be heard. And that's what I want to give people that I bring on. Is
Yeah.
just a voice. You
Yeah.
know, so, and that's one
Yeah.
thing that I was really thankful about when Cody brought me on his podcast, and and all that. I was just so thankful because it meant so much. Because like
Definitely.
he is a big inspiration for me, and the fact that I was on there, just it was so inspiring to me, just the fact that he let me on, because
Sure.
hey, I'm a young kid, and it's just kind of blew me away, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if you'd like give me a few minutes because I wouldn't mind like saying a few things to encourage young people in because
yeah,
I
go
know you
ahead,
guys
please.
are on this journey, entering manhood or womanhood or everyone's on that different spot. But there's a few things I am really encouraged about, and I'm seeing like in your generation especially and a little younger, like this renewed spirit of wanting to work harder that's
Hmm.
been missing for several years.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to see like it's different. Like it's hard to put my finger on it. And I've seen several generations here, and there's been several. Like I'm not really a glass half empty. I'm not a glass half full either. I'm just
Yeah.
it's a glass of water kind of person.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
like I've been kind of encouraged these last few years
Oh yeah, definitely.
by your guys' generation, like coming up and just seeing like you know, I I'm noticing there was an apathetic attitude here for several years,
Hmm.
and I'm starting to see that shift to a hey, things aren't going the way we want it to, so we're going to be different. And I would just encourage young people out there that listen or that you talk to is if you want to really distinguish yourself, a um, I mean, here's three basic things. First one, well, let's go four different things.
Yeah.
First one, make sure you take your character integrity seriously. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it. I mean, character is one of those things that will get you so much further in life and will put you towards the top quicker than anything else.
Hmm.
And then I think second, like um, I know phones are a big thing, and I'm not anti-phone. I'm on here. I mean, I
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff with my phone. It's a tool that I use, but learn to look people, learn to put the phone away when it's time to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to move up so much faster in life. And then if you have a job or you're working, like be the best worker there and be teachable.
Hmm.
Like, yes, I can go learn almost anything on Google if I want to or watch a YouTube video. But if I stand there for a few minutes, especially with older, let's say 60 plus, and I
Hmm.
just hear them out, even though I may know how to do it, or I may even know how to do it a little bit better, if I just listen because I've watched a YouTube video about it, But even if I just stand there and listen for a little bit and they just take the time to have that conversation or whatever, that's going to go so far in their
Mhm.
minds that you're just somebody who's willing to learn, respectful, all those types of things. But I think those are four good things. But the last thing I would say is when you are searching for, and this has been on my mind a lot. I'm getting ready to do an episode on this
Yeah.
actually, because, and I'm still trying to figure out some things. I like to come at things with some background, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here, even though I've been thinking about it for a little while. Is I've noticed this trend of forming your identity on whatever your problem is, and what
Yeah.
I mean is like, let's say, somebody has ADHD. Like, you may have that, but that's not who you are. If
Right.
you're a Christian, like, that's where your identity is. Like, find your identity in Christ. You may have, this issue or that issue, and we all struggle with something. I was talking to somebody, and this isn't just a young person thing, this is across the board. I mean,
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, 70 plus the other day, about the same very thing. And they, their whole identity is wrapped up in their depression and anxiety. And those are all things that we all struggle with in one way or another. But if you're a Christian, like, that can't be the thing that defines you. You being a Christian, you being a child of the King, that's what defines you now. So if this other thing is trying to, you know, take over or trying to, you know, become the supreme thing in your life, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you need to deal with that issue. And, you know, anytime something tries to take the place of where Christ should be in our lives, or if we talk about something more, like, I'm a, Cubs fan. Like,
Mhm.
if I talk about the Cubs more than I talk about Christ, something's wrong in my priorities. And I need to make sure always, and I think it starts from a younger age. The sooner we can learn to do this, the better. But the sooner I can make all my decisions, my perspective, my worldview, all those things, when they start becoming, and we start seeing them through the lens of Christ, the lens of the scriptures, we are making headway in life. We are becoming more like Christ. And man, I would challenge young people and older people for that matter. The sooner we can catch on to that and realize there's power in the scriptures, there's power in pursuing Christ in this life. Man, you're only setting yourself up for victory, and hard times won't feel so hard. Good times will feel good, but we know that they pale in comparison to one day we'll be with Jesus in heaven. And it changes your whole perspective on life. And I think, man, if I could challenge younger people, since this is what your podcast is geared towards, man,
Yeah.
I would just challenge them to say, man, where is Christ in what you're doing? Where is Christ when you're playing basketball? Where is Christ when you're out on the football field? Where is he when you're taking that test? Maybe you studied the night before, maybe you didn't. But, where's Christ when you went to that job the other day or you went fishing with some buddies? Whatever you're doing, where's Christ in all of it?
That's wow. That is really that's good. That's good, man.
It's just, man, it's
Yeah.
been on my mind so much lately.
Well, I'm so glad, because that was, I mean, that is so good. But you were talking about like you're seeing like I guess a resurgence in like their like youth work ethic. Is that kind of like you know just
Yeah.
wanting to work hard? It was kind of funny you mentioned that because on my it was on one of my latest episodes, Mitchell Mikey. It was that was his whole thing is just um the Christian work ethic and how we can achieve it and keep it and we kind of dove into like what the youth how they could apply that. And one of the things that he was talking about was, just an example is, because a lot of the people or a lot of kids that I know, they work down at one of the three Chick-fil-A's that we have down here.
Sure.
You know, just, because I'm telling you, they will hire, it seems like they hire just about anybody in a heartbeat, But like one of the things that he said, when he went in there, he just wanted to work at it, give it his all, and just work heartily at it. And I can't remember the verses that he used, but there was something in there that talks about working heartily in the Bible. I just don't
Mhm.
remember where. Um, but he used it as an example, and I thought that was just so cool. Just to hear you say that. Because like because you just look in certain areas, you often think that people like our youth are like getting lazier and things, but then you hear something like Mikey said, and then you really start to have faith in the youth again, stuff like that. That just really put your faith in the youth again, like I said,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
Um, but yeah, I mean that was you know really really good points, you know. I mean just because like like we have to. I mean, I think we have to really challenge ourselves. And like you said, we have to. I mean, like changing, like the fact that we're like being different. Because I mean, honestly, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm like so young. Was so young at the time. I didn't know that like for a few years there was. I mean, if you could liven it to a little bit, but like I guess I never saw that there was a bit of like maybe I don't know if a generation gap. What do you want to call it? With being like working hard.
Yeah.
Like, can you dive into a little bit about that? If you
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. Like some people say it started with the millennials, and I'm on kind of the tail.
Yeah.
I'm right before millennials started. So I'm like right in that in between zone there. But like I could see it in my generation too. And I mean, there's an old quote where, good times create weak men.
Mhm.
And I think we've lived in good times for so long that we've just become complacent. Like we just kind of, this is what we do. This is how you make some money. This is how you live the life. And you just kind of grow. It's like when water sits for too long and it becomes stagnant. Like it doesn't necessarily look horrible, but it doesn't necessarily look right either. Like you
Right.
wouldn't drink it.
Yeah.
So, and I think we just kind of became stagnant. And and it went for a long time. And normally, like September 11th changed some things. I can remember
Mhm.
that. I was still in high school, but but it didn't last very long. And then it kind of went back to the status quo. And even though we were in a war, it was different than other wars, I think,
Mhm.
because we didn't feel it as much as like World War II, where I mean, I think they were really starting to feel it because there were thousands of people going to war,
Right.
and we didn't feel that as much. I don't think with the war on terrorism or whatever you want to call it, and that's a whole other conversation. But I think we just kind of grew this stagnant kind of just this is what you do when you hit this age, this is where you go, and you just work and you work for the retirement, and then that's all you kind of do. But I think, and maybe it was 2020 or a little bit before that, you just started to see people wanting to do something a little different,
Yeah.
and they had grown they'd grown accustomed with the routine, but they were also saying, yeah, but that's not enough anymore.
Mhm.
Like we needed a creative spark. And you started to see that with a lot of YouTube channels, you started to see that with podcasting, different avenues where you could get different information or knowledge that you aren't learning in school anymore. And most of the things where I'm talking about on here, you're not going to hear a single one of these in school.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and which is sad. I mean, really. And I think it's these other creative outlets that we can gain knowledge from that you started seeing people say, yeah, I want to work. I want to work hard, but at the same time, I don't want to do it the same way anymore. There's
Mhm.
something different out there. There's something better out there, and I want to begin to be that change in society. So, like, I can't pinpoint when it happened, but I've started. But I can say 2020 changed some things
Yeah.
because I saw a lot of young people who said something's not right here.
I mean, definitely, just, I mean, because it's like some instances I can think, just, in my life, right, was, just trying to like just do something different, because as I got older, I realized, there could be something that I could do, if I wanted to make a change or something like, or whatever it could be, just
Hmm.
because as I was younger, I shouldn't really think of that stuff, why would I? But one of the things I was thinking of is Operation Patriotism. I know you've kind of heard a little bit
Hmm.
about that, you know,
Yeah.
like that was just something that, it came about in 2020. I was, kind of bouncing around the idea. And I was like, now that I'm older and, now that like, all of our nation's heroes are getting all the scrutiny and everything, it's something that, maybe I could work towards. And,
Hmm.
it's still growing, it's still being kind of built today. It's a slow process just because, figuring things out because I'm not like, the wealthiest person on the planet. So, and things take
Yeah.
money. But,
Yeah.
you know, um, but that was like such a just an awesome thing that I believe that just I believe now that the Lord's put into my head. Just you can do this because for years I had thought of certain ideas like that, but they would just kind of like be one-off, 2-day maybe things, and then just kind of go out the window. Never think about it again.
Uh-huh.
But this one, I really wanted to do something with it. Just like and so I started asking people what should I do, and got the designs drawn up by somebody, and we and got it like it's an official nonprofit, and that's just so cool to think about, like you know
Definitely.
um and even though it's not under my name because I'm not old enough,
Hmm.
um it's just something that I can say, hey, like if people think there was a big change in 2020, which there was, just in thinking, because we had time to sit there and think for what, a lot of people's summer vacations were extended about 5 months, you know
Sure.
they had a lot of time to sit there and think, and they could either change their minds in a good way or change it in a bad way. And I just hope more people used it for good than bad, because I know that I've seen some of the opposite effects as well.
Yeah.
Like there was people that I knew, and then in middle school, and then they come back, because for me that was like when I was starting ninth grade in high school, when all that was
Yeah.
going down, and I come back to school, and people that I knew, they wouldn't talk to me or whatever.
Mm.
So you had some time to sit there and look up stuff, or look at TV or whatever, soak something in that wasn't too good. I'm assuming that's what it seemed
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I was right, and it just but it was a little bit upsetting. I was like, we were good friends. What happened? But like that just happens, unfortunately. But I'm
Yeah.
thankful for what the Lord's given, the people that He's put in my life now, because I wouldn't trade them for the world. So
That's awesome.
yeah. But if you like, I know that you've talked a little bit. I know like so. I mean, if you want to get like more specific about how it is, working with youth, or when you did, like, like what did you? Was there anything like just that moments that stood out to you, that were just like, wow, that's like so awesome, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there's a few like stories or whatever. There's always, the fun stuff where you
yeah,
with youth. All I mean, teens are hilarious usually, but
yeah,
I that it helps you stay young, and there's always things that are cool, and you're funny, and fun relationships that you build with them, and it's always cool. I'm at the point now where I've started to see some of them get married, have
hmm,
kids,
that's
so that's
awesome.
always really cool. And I mean, there's one kid I can think of who, man, he would go to youth group, and we'd have conversations. He would play the part, but I knew he wasn't a Christian.
Right.
And he, I think deep down, knew he wasn't either. And, he was just always struggling with different, sin issues. And he went to a Christian school. So, he
Hmm.
had that. But there was just no fruit of his
Yeah.
faith. And, it got to the point where he kind of stopped coming, and in some ways, I wouldn't say I gave up, but I had come to the spot where like it was going to take a miracle of God to really transform this kid.
Yeah.
And I had done, we'd gone out to lunch, we'd gone to, he's the kid I would take to like Buffalo Wild Wings, and we'd share one of the hottest, the
Yeah.
hottest wing or whatever. We would have fun, and you have to build those relationships. But like I can remember the day he had a grandpa who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody was doing the funeral, and it was a verse that it was Romans 12, 1 and 2. And for whatever reason, even though I know he had heard this verse, I don't know how many times, because I had taught about it and all those types of things, being transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, for whatever reason, that day, that verse, it was like it popped off the page at him.
Yeah.
And for the first time, he really saw his need for Jesus, his need for life transformation. And he just really saw the gospel transform and begin to transform his life. And he went on to work for Cru, the it's like a offsite ministry that works with college kids. And
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a associate pastor somewhere now, and went on to go to get his master's of at a Bible college. And those are the stories. Like, I don't have a lot of those, sadly.
Yeah.
However, there's a few of those that, man, when I step back and I really think about it, those are the ones that just, they mean the world, because
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah.
just really the grace of God in this kid's life. And it was nothing I did per se. It was just time investment for me. But when you get to see the power of the word get a hold of young people, it's just awesome to see,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh yeah.
they have more energy, they have more passion, it seems like, and there's nothing that can stop them.
Oh, I mean, definitely, because I mean, one of the things I've noticed, at least with, because my church, I mean, praise the Lord that we have, we've had, I don't know, I think it was on Christmas, we had like 6 baptisms, right? You know, and
Awesome.
about 4, I mean, I think about 4 or 3 of them, were kids, and like that's been the majority. I mean, these are like young kids, like some of them were from the VBS that they did and that we've done, and all that, but like it's so cool to see like the majority, from when I've been there, you know, has been kids. Just it's so cool to see,
Yeah.
um, but just talking about like, and I don't know if you've heard me talk about it or not, but one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I think is just so awesome that the Lord, did, because my mom, like for years, when I was little, she'd ask, if I wanted to go to church or not, because she said she would take me if I wanted to go, but I just never said, I said no, just because I never had any desire for it,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't really grow up in it, um, but sometimes it just depends on, like it depends on just God's timing is just so sometimes peculiar at times, but he puts those friends in my life that I was talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
they were the ones that brought me to Christ. So it just depends on the time. God's timing can be a little strange at times, but it works out better than what you planned, I promise. you know
Definitely.
um but like one thing I don't think I expected, because when I went to go, and Ben Shelby, he said he had never heard something like this before. But my mom actually got rededicated with me when I got baptized at my church, and that made the moment even more special because I got to share it with her, and not just,
Yeah.
and also and I know that I don't know how every church does it differently, but for mine, there was some fear factor in there because there's a lot of people in this room, you know. I mean, because we have 2 services because it's so big, because the church is so big.
Yeah.
But I believe it was the Easter service that I got saved on, so because that was when you just walk up there, and then the next Sunday I got baptized, because you had to schedule that,
Sure.
and I think that was one of the ones where they combined both services because it's Easter, they're not going to do 2 services because it's a holiday. Um,
Yeah.
well, I remember going up there, and if there's of course I was excited, I was kind of scared because there's so many people there, but just if there's anybody that's thinking about that, please just do it. I promise you it'll be the best decision you'll ever make. um you know
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely.
because like it was so good, because I had one of my friends there, it was maybe my 3rd church service maybe in years. And he was there, and he told me afterwards, he was like, man, me and all my family were over here crying. I was like, you didn't have to tell me that. Like, but I just started like cheesing real big afterwards, it was funny.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
um, you know. But I just like to tell that, you know, just because it's, you know, it's so cool. Just,
Yeah.
you know, it just came out of nowhere. And then here I am now talking on a podcast, which I didn't even think I was going to do, you know, or
Yeah.
I didn't, this would be the last thing I expected to be doing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So, well, hey, same here. Same
yeah.
here.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and when I say, I don't know about you, but when I, you know, because um, when Cody was doing it, you know, because I was just kind of following what he was doing. You know, we're not like I didn't do this podcast because he was doing one, but I was just kind of following on social media to see, you know, to see what he was doing. I'd support him, whatever, you know, and post and stuff like that. I'm telling you, man, I don't know if you know this, but like your name kept coming up. And I was like, I gotta
Really?
check this guy out. Yeah, it did. You know, like, or at least your account did. Not, you know, because I mean,
Oh.
he was excited to have you on. I'll tell you that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He, you know, he really was really excited to have you on. Because I do know when he was first telling me about the podcast and you know his podcast and everything. You know, he wanted to have you on and so many others. But I remember he said, yeah. Because I asked him, it's like, you know, so how did you do the order of it? You know, because I think he had about 3, 4 to 5 people, you know, ask. And he's like, well, I did it just in the order that everybody asked. And so I guess I beat everybody to the punch because I was the
Yeah.
first one. Um, you know, like that was so funny to me because I mean he was so stoked about having you on. I don't know if he's ever told you that, but he was
No,
really
but
excited.
that's cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Well,
and
you can thank my oldest.
yeah,
She's 13, and
mhm,
she kind of was nagging me for a long time,
yeah,
over a year, to do it. And then a guy named Terry Cagle.
mhm,
He lives in Alabama, and he just asked me one time because we'd followed each other on Instagram, and I was kind of hesitant at first, and then I eventually said yes. And
right,
he, I kind of enjoyed it, and so I was like, well, I said, let's give it a shot for like a month,
mhm,
and if I can't get anybody to come on, or if I get bored with it, I'm done. You know
yeah.
what I mean? But it's taken off, and this is where we're at.
Oh
So
yeah, I mean
I
it's
got some
definitely taken off.
stuff
You
to,
know, yeah.
yeah,
Because you know, because of course I was, you were one of the first accounts I looked at. Because you know, I mean, how could I not? If I hear Cody talking about it, yeah, I was like, you know what, I'll check him out. It's like,
yeah,
I was like, wow, he's got a really big, you know, following through this podcast, and it was just really, really cool. Um,
yeah,
you know, to
yeah.
see.
It's fun.
Um, yeah, you know, and this was one thing that for me was like, I had to, you know, really think about it, and not just because, you know, like, because I knew it would be a good thing to do, but I wanted to do it for the right reasons, you know,
Yeah,
not just because, oh, you know, Cody and Donovan and Justin are over here doing like amazing podcasts. That's so cool. I want to do that too. You know, I didn't want to like do it just because it was a cool thing or whatever. I mean, it is a, you know,
yeah,
it is a neat thing to do, but I wanted the right reasons. So you know, I prayed on it and, you know, it just, but it's been so rewarding, you know, because I don't know if you've heard me talk about it at all, but
yeah.
like I used to do TikTok videos, you know, sometimes. Let me tell you, this is a lot more rewarding than that, 10 times more. Um, you know, and I actually stepped away from TikTok after doing Cody's episode with him
Yeah,
because I was just like, you know, because there was great people, just like, you know, this community that we have now. There's great people on there. However, the app is too. It's just a bad app, is what I've said. You know.
yeah,
Um, and I know
yeah,
that you know we all still have accounts on there and stuff like that, but I wouldn't recommend scrolling there through hours. You'll see stuff that you didn't want to see.
yeah, definitely.
You know.
Yeah,
But,
hey, I have one. I basically just post the same thing I post on Instagram,
right.
or
Yeah.
the little like snippets of podcast interviews,
Mhm.
stuff like that just are quick hits. So if somebody is scrolling through, like searching a hashtag or something, it's going to pop up.
Right.
But I really don't have time to be scrolling through looking at stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't have. I'm too busy. Let's put it
Yeah.
that.
You know, and I'm glad that we were able to, you know, to do this today though, because I know that you
Yeah,
have, I mean, with the amount of interviews you put out, like a week, or like, you know, there's not a week, every
yeah.
week. You know, it amazes me because I'm like, how in the world did he get somebody so fast? I have to like
Dude,
sit here and like write down every week who I'm trying to grab here, you know, because
Well,
I found,
sometimes you
yeah,
just gotta nag people enough, and then they'll.
yeah, yeah. It's like, hey, come on, it's like, but
That's what
you know,
like Donovan told me from Called to Act. He's just like,
yeah.
dude, I just nagged this person until they said yes. I'm like,
Oh my
okay.
gosh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
He's doing something pretty big with me and Ben. I think he wants to have both of us on at the same time at some point this year. He
that'd be
told me
cool.
that, and I was like, that, but I don't, one thing I just hope that doesn't happen is like we run over each other. I don't want that to happen, because there's three people in a,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
I hear you.
but I'm sure we'll be able to be just fine on that.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be. But is there anything, I'll probably try to wrap up here. Is there anything, final words, anything you want to say, maybe words of encouragement?
Yeah, sure. I would encourage your listeners just to go and, like I said a little bit before, is like, where's Christ at in what you're doing? Your life goals. Let's say you're still in high school and you're
Hmm.
thinking about your long-term goals. Well, you can think about what I want to do or what my life aspirations are, any of those types of things. But I would challenge you to say, well, where is Christ in all that?
Hmm.
Am I going to be able to um, live for Jesus? Am I going to be able to get involved in a local church and invest there? Am I going to be able to pursue Him? Because all those other things are great, but if you don't take your faith seriously, I think that's why we see a lot of people walk away, is because they don't consider where Christ is in their life's goals, if you will. So
Yeah.
I would just challenge your listeners just to say, where's Christ in that? Where's Christ in that when I play basketball, or when I'm playing video games, or whatever it may be, or I'm working over at Chick-fil-A,
Hmm.
the Christian fast food place. But how can I represent Christ well where I'm at right now? And how can I make a bigger, people always say they want to make a bigger difference. They
Right.
want to be the change, all those little catchy phrases. But like,
Yeah.
have you thought about how you can make Jesus known more today? Like, how
Hmm.
can you be Jesus to other people today? And I think if we thought about that more, it would just change our perspective in so many different ways. And I think, the world around us could only benefit because of it.
I mean, totally. That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, just we have to, just really think. I mean, if you go to do something, just think about how you could fit Jesus into it, or if you can, because if you can't, then more than likely you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but another thing too, where can everybody find you, like social media and
Sure.
stuff like that?
Yeah. If you type in Be a Man, usually it has a BAM at the end.
Hmm.
Instagram's probably the best place. That's where I'm most active on there, at Be a Man BAM. There's underscores between each word there. But, I'm on Twitter. If you look in the bio, you'll see all the other info. I'm on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that. And I'm pretty responsive no matter where you hit me up at. I should get back pretty quickly. I try to, at least. And, anybody has any questions, especially young people, I talk with teens a lot.
Yeah.
And so if anybody has any questions, or you're looking for, maybe some steps into how to grow in your faith, or you're thinking, well, I want to become the kind of godly person that God wants me to be, like, how do I do that? Just hit me up. I would love to chat with you. I'd love to talk with you, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And man, I just want to tell you, it's been a joy, Charlie. I've really enjoyed this conversation,
I'm
and
so
it's been
glad.
super encouraging, man. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you having me on. It's always humbling, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad, man. It was one, and I'm so glad I could have you on. And I'm telling you, I'm always nervous for each episode. It doesn't matter who's on or whatever. I always am just a little bit, because I want it to
Yeah,
go well. But I mean,
sure.
this one was really, really encouraging. And I mean, you know, with the advice you gave, for the my audience, also it applies to me as well. So I can take that and use it, which is absolutely awesome,
Oh,
and so I thank you for that,
yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries,
But
man.
yeah, but thank you for coming on, and it's been an absolute blast. And who knows, maybe the Lord will put us again
Oh, yeah.
together sometime. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very well. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Charlie. Man, keep doing what you're doing. We need more young people who are trying to make a difference. And I appreciate that you are leading in that way.
Well, it's my pleasure to do it, and I don't work at Chick-fil-A, I promise. Just saying that. Um, but
So it's not your pleasure.
nope, it's totally not my pleasure to have you on. No, 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 no. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been an absolute. And I just can't wait to see what the Lord does for both of us in the future.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right, man. See ya.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yep. You're welcome.
Bye.